This podcast is sponsored by SageNet, the South African German network. Please visit them on www.sage-net.org.
Monday gets the lead, watch the company you keep. Look at the youth now, look at the youth now. Look at the youth, look at the youth, look at the youth. Wish I knew.
Hallo liebe Leute, ich heiße Bliss. I'm from Durban. I am 24 years old, and my background, I come from a very entrepreneurial background. In the previous episode, you might have seen the podcast filming my dad at Lodge, and you might have also seen the other film, which is called UBLISS. So right now we are here again with the Podcast Express to speak about who I am and what I do as a person outside of the Inanda adventures and Inanda Valley capacity. So for me, I was a volunteer in Germany, where I got to stay in Germany for a year. I was based in Kiel, which is about an hour away from Hamburg, in the province of Schleswig-Holstein, or the state rather, which is one of the 16 states in the Bundesrepublik of Germany. And right now we're in a conversation. We're having a conversation with the Royale Express Podcast about all things Germany, all things Europe, and all things Bliss.
So how did it come about that you ended up going to Germany?
So funny enough, how I actually got exposed to Germany as a whole, I was graduating from my business degree in 2019, and about a month after I graduated, my father, Mr. Sibiya, he sent me an application via email. He's like, look, here's an application to go to Germany, just apply and see how far you get. So I applied, and then I forgot about it. And then a couple months down the line, I get an email saying that, you've been shortlisted to go work as a volunteer in Germany. And that's when I started paying much more attention, just to find out, it's okay, what am I getting myself into before I get excited about going to Germany? So I did my research. The organization was called SageNet, which is the South African German Exchange Network, which is based in Cape Town. So there's a branch in Cape Town, which is the South African branch, and then there's a branch in Berlin. So what they basically do is facilitate exchange programs through the Weltwärts network. So that is how I got exposed to it. And then, in July, this was in April, May, when I got the shortlisting, I was told that I've been accepted. And then in July, the very same year, we went down to Cape Town with other people that got a chance to go through. And we spent like 10 days just like drilling us with the German language and also the German culture, because not all of us were like 100% sure of what we were doing. So it was just like a young induction program where they would coach us and take us through the steps as to what to expect in Germany and the coping mechanisms, because Germany is far away from home and the language barrier might be an issue. So it was just a nice preparation. And then we also got to learn the German language, which is where I got my first taste of what the German language sounded like. And wow, it's a lot of mental preparation that needs to take place when you learn in the German language. Then fast forward to August 27 was the day that we all flew from Cape Town, or from where we were first, somewhere in PE, somewhere in Durban, and somewhere in Cape Town. We all met in Cape Town, and then from Cape Town we went through to Germany. And that is when our actual experience started, but more specifically, that was when my German experience started. It was very surreal because, first of all, I've never applied for like any competitions to begin with. So I've never won anything from a competition, and it feels like that, where you apply for something and then it's like an all expenses paid trip, It was a weird feeling, and it made me wonder if it was like some human trafficking vibes. That's why I did all the research. I was like, am I really going to Germany before I tell the homies or tell my family that this thing is happening? And then when they started we started seeing your flight ticket, like with your name, your ID number and all that, that's when you start to think that, okay, there are people out there that are willing to pay for your trip to go somewhere, to spend a year and also give you a salary. So even now, it's still weird for me that people would actually do that, but they did it. They did it for 6 of us. They paid for our flights, they paid for our visa application, they paid for our stay in Germany for the whole year, and they paid for our flights back. So it's weird. It's still like, wow, like someone actually did that for us, But at the same time, we were there to contribute. So not only was it, to us it was like a vacation, with work, but to them it was like it was a job, because you had to fulfill a job when you were that side. And we were the chosen ones. 6 of us were the chosen ones, where they put their money where the mouth is, and they put their money in us. So we had a responsibility to ensure that we do not take advantage of that. Yes, it was our first time in Europe, but we have a job to fulfill. So we just had to balance that. And as a group, all of us as a group had to like ensure that, okay, as much as folks are paying, we don't know who it was, we don't know who decided, who did the selections, but we just need to ensure that we behave ourselves and we conduct ourselves such that they don't regret paying for our flights and paying for our accommodation.
How were you able to balance everything? First time being in Europe, first time being in Germany, like you're excited, obviously you want to explore everything, but you're still channeling in your purpose of being there and what you need to fulfill at the end of those 12 months while you're there. How was it though, the experience? Were there any challenges that you had to face, that you had to like, okay, we need to mitigate this issue right now and then still continue with the mission that you were on?
So there were definitely challenges, especially when it comes to fulfilling your duty there and ensuring that you maintain that balance, because you are told that go out there, have as much fun as possible, but do not forget that you're working. So how I did it personally, during the week between 8 and 4, which was my work time, I would ensure that I give my 100%. I worked at a kindergarten, so it wasn't really complicated work. My responsibility was to ensure that I educate the children in the English language by simply playing in a sandpit or in a jumping castle and just say English words and ensure that they can cross-reference what I'm saying to what the word is and to what we are doing. So for example, if you're playing in a sandpit, I would point at the sandpit and be like, sandpit. And then they would know that, okay, he's talking about the sandpit. So that next time when I say, let's go play by the sandpit, they just remember that key word. So that was how I would teach the kids. And then they would have this thing called Morgenkreis, which is a morning circle, where the kids come together and they sing songs. So the German educators would sing their German songs, and then I would play the responsibility by ensuring that we sing English songs. And then I would also push the boundaries and sing Zulu songs, just to ensure that the kids know that, okay, this is what I'm about, this is my responsibility, and to make it fun for them to learn, because the whole point of it is to ensure that we capture the moments of learning when they are doing what they are doing. That way it's not in a classroom and then exposing them to a language or whatnot. It's just simply in what we are doing, the practical way of learning. And the kids enjoyed it, and my bosses enjoyed it too. So that showed, that was my KPI, that if the parents of the kids actually know what I'm doing and they can see the results, and my boss sees the results as well, then I'm doing my job. But from 4 to 12 in the evening, that is a turn up. Like, that is definitely a vibe. I go see places, I go ensure that I'm one with the culture, especially the Chilean culture, which is where I was. I'm part of what people do there, what the northern culture is, and then also ensure that I also have my own fun, because at the end of the day, working with kids, like 25 kids, it is a bit frustrating, it is a bit tiring, because kids just want to play the whole time, and you have to be energetic too, but then afterwards, from 4 to 12, I do whatever I want to do, and yeah, it's just a wonderful experience. And then also on weekends I make sure that I go out there, like I spend whatever I need to spend, obviously not reckless with my spending, but I ensure that I go to as many places as possible, because at the end of the day, I'm in Europe, my nigga, like I'm turning up, so I wasn't sure that it was a vibe, 50-50, but my work came first during the week. My work definitely came first, and yeah, it seemed to bring in great results, because I'm still in contact with the children, the parents, as well as the people that I work for in Germany.
Are there differences between different parts of Germany? Like in terms, you've mentioned culture of the area that you were in. Were there any differences when you went to different areas of Germany and you were exploring and taking adventures in various areas? Were there any differences that you noticed that, okay, the lifestyle here is a bit different, the people here are a bit different, the German is probably slightly different in certain areas? What did you notice within Germany that was different between each part?
So I was blessed to be in different parts of Germany at different times. I was from the north side, which is Schleswig-Holstein, and their culture seems to be more like reserved, because of the fact that like it's in the outskirts type vibes. So people are more like to themselves. So I had to learn that, for example, when you go into a bus, you can't just start a conversation with any random person. Or when you ask someone a question in German, how they doing, it's like, why do you want to know how I'm doing vibes? So coming from where I come from in South Africa, where you just start a casual conversation with anyone, then it was a bit weird for them. And for me, I had to learn that. But at the same time, those that were exposed to that, by me greeting them and asking how they're doing, they also felt a warm sort of feeling because someone actually did take the time to ask how they were doing. If you go to Munich, which is the north side, which is known as Bayern, they have a different mentality. They are more like outgoing, also more snobbish. Like Germans do this thing where, because Munich is like where the money is, you know, you have all the American companies that are there, there's Bayern Munich, so they have a sense of pride. The BMW also comes from there. So you kind of get to understand why people are like that, why people are snobs, because of the area that they come from. But then when you go to Berlin or you go to Hamburg is like, it's like a boyki. Like there's just different cultures, different vibes. So you're more at home because you see, for example, more black people there from different countries. And you feel warm because it's just a warm place, it's open, it's relaxed, it's very liberal. So you wouldn't be surprised if you see certain things. So if you go to a place like Thüringen, for example, or you go to a place like in the outskirts, like Liège, like you then tend to see that, okay, no, it's a different vibe. So it really depends where you are, but if you go closer to like the main cities or the main towns, that's where you get to feel like more relaxed and more at home. What I took most is definitely the language. Before I found out about this whole Germany thing, I didn't really pay much attention. I wanted to learn French. But because I went through the German journey, I've been more inclined to learn German because of what I've learned before. And then I've also realized that it's an important soft skill if you were exposed to it because of the many opportunities that you have, not only in Germany, but in South Africa. What I also learned is how to be myself, you know, far away from family, far away from friends, just to, you know, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I learned that a lot, and coming back here, I've learned to be more uncomfortable because then you get to see how much muscle you get to grow from being broken down and then being rebuilt again.
Look at the youth, look at the youth, look at the youth, look at the youth. Wish I knew, wish I knew, wish I knew. Man then gets the lead, watch the company you keep. Look at the youth now, look at the youth now.
So tell us, coming back home, now you're in South Africa, you've had your experiences and you've been able to mentally put the dots together of what you can potentially do now post being in Germany. You back home, what have you been able to, I don't want to say the word accomplish, but what have you been able to establish from there or build up from then or grow from that inception of what I can do when at home? What are you currently doing now and what have you been able to do since coming back from Germany?
So because I've been exposed to the German language, I decided why not just try level up in terms of the language skill. So in Europe as a whole, there's this thing called an EQF, which is the European qualification framework or something like that, and they put you in levels. So if, for example, you are entry level with a German language, you are considered A1, and then to qualify for A1, you need to do a test. So I picked to do it through the Goethe Institut, which is based here in Johannesburg, but I did an A2 because I just felt that I'm not at A1 level because of the fact that I've spent time in Germany for a year, so I've been able to, you know, converse and comprehend what has been said, and I decided to do an A2. But now I qualified for the A2, by the way. I got 83%, so it shows that, you know, I'm able to, you know, comprehend a bit more. So I decided that I want to level up more and do a B1. So the EQF level is from A1 to C2. So A1 being entry level, C2 to be like a professional, like you boss at it, native speaking. And then B1 is pretty much like to be naturalized, like if you want to be a German citizen, you have to at least have a B1 or a B2 in order for them to take you in and consider you as part of the, you know, the German community and to be integrated easier. So right now I'm on my journey to getting a B1. It's not easy. The German language is definitely not an easy language, but like, and an X-Factor youth person would say, like, as much as it's hard, that's all the more reason to do it because of its difficulties. So that is the journey that I'm in. I'm also an intern, funny enough, at the Goethe Institut, the same institute where I'm learning the language, just so that I can expose myself more to the organizational culture of the Germans in the South African setting. Because in Germany, the organizational culture is different because of the different policies, the different working hours. Here, it is definitely more relaxed, and I'm at home, but I still want that touch of Germany. So I think being blessed with the opportunity to intern at the Goethe Institute gives me the best of both worlds, where I'm able to go into the German life and then step out of it and just go home, and then also be part of the South African life, as opposed to being 12 hours away in Europe, far away from South African, civilization.
What do you prefer the most, South African civilization or the German civilization?
Honestly, I prefer the South African civilization just because of the culture that we have, Ubuntu, the fact that, we are able to make friends just from a simple 10-second conversation. In Germany, you kind of like have to see a person many times in order for them to consider you part of, the peripheral, in order for you to have a conversation with someone. Here, everything is more relaxed. Everything is just more comfortable. Yes, there's a good thing and a bad thing to it, but for the most part, the culture in South Africa is just way, way, way better than the German culture. I mean, I come from an entrepreneurial background, and the family that I'm in is also very entrepreneurial. So we always ask ourselves, like, what opportunities are there in certain things, because there are two types of strategies. There's an emergent strategy and a prescriptive strategy. So a prescribed strategy is when you plan things out, like you ensure that, okay, I'm going to do this is what's going to happen, and then we move forward. And then the emergent is when something just comes up and you have to improvise and then see that, okay, so this is what this is what has happened from the prescriptive strategy. How do we take advantage of it? So for me, I'm just exploiting and trying to maximize the experience of being in Germany and seeing what opportunities that can come about of it. So with the B1, I'm not planning on being a citizen, but I do want to have an opportunity where I can just fly in and out of Germany, or not just Germany, but like any place in Europe that would allow me to speak the German language and also see what opportunities are there. Because the B1 can definitely put you in certain places. Like, for example, the education in Germany is free. So if you have a B1 or a B2, it's easier to get into university and study a master's or a doctorate, because I do not plan on doing my master's or doctorate in South Africa. So there's an advantage there. But also from a business side, as an entrepreneur, if a German startup, for example, wants to expand and come into South Africa, and then wants to find people who do understand the German culture and also the language, and can facilitate the transition or the transaction from the German startup phase to the South African phase as part of their globalization strategy. I want to be the first person that they contact, where I can show face, the BEE, how we take advantage of BE, and then also show them that, I can speak the language, I know the lingo, I've been in Germany, so how can we work? How can we ensure that there's a 50-50 split, or what equity, what can I bring in, or what is my contribution into the startup? So I'm always trying to open myself up for any German organization, or any German startup, or any German business, or any German individual who wants to do business in South Africa but needs the right people for it. So that's where the business side comes in.
Is that a particular gap that you've seen in South Africa in relation and in connection with Europe and business people and entrepreneurs coming through, or even South Africans trying to go through to Europe or Germany specifically? Is that a specific gap that you've seen, or it's a train that you're also just riding and becoming a part of a network that's already there and available?
It is definitely a train that is riding. However, from research that I've conducted, most German companies are either based in Pretoria, which is close to the German embassy, or in Cape Town. What I essentially want to do is to bring more businesses, German businesses or European businesses, into Durban, the Durban area, because Durban has a lot of potential and people are just sleeping on Durban. And I feel like if we have more European or German businesses there, it kind of like changes the perspective or changes the narrative of Durban, because right now Durban is known as like a relaxed city, whereas there's a lot of potential in Durban. And if we can bring investments from different areas, on a personal scale, not through like, public, FDI, because I have a thing with the whole public sector, and politics. But if we can bring investment in a private sector, in a private state, then we have the ability to upskill people in Durban, people from the Inc areas such as Inanda, Duzuma, Wamashu, Mlazi. But it really takes that one person who was going to go out there and try seek those investments and seek those funds in order to bring them to Durban. Because at the end of the day, as much as I'm in Joburg, my home is Durban, and I want to see people from my communities grow. So if it means I need to teach them the German language, I will go back to Durban and I will teach them so that we can bring more investments in and then also send them overseas. I'm blessed to be an example of a person who went overseas as a volunteer. I want to bring that to the people in my community where I have, let's say, funds. For example, when I am successful, I have funds where I can just send 10 people to Germany to just experience and then come back and then document the experiences and then see how they can exploit that opportunity just as I've done.
Apart from your business ventures and your global views and aims of taking over the world and ruling the country, what have you done as an individual, as Bliss Sibiya, to make an impact for the next person right next door?
So while I was in Germany, I managed to reach out to an organization called the HaBer Project, which is the shirt that I'm wearing now. They're based in Berlin, and what they do, they're a non-profit organization, but they're also a dance company. So they do a whole lot of dance events where they get people from Poland, from Cuba, from all around the world to come have like a seminar and to educate kids. So that is one thing that I'm trying to do, where that partnership will allow me to send people over who are creatives, who are dancers. They don't necessarily have to be dancers, but they can be artists, where we can partner with HaBer, send them through, let them spend a week or 6 months or a year, and also be part of that culture, so that they can come back and also have the same views, or perhaps have enhanced views of what the global status is. Because a person from Inanda does not really know what's happening in Berlin, what's happening in Hamburg, in South America, and to expose them to that, and when they come home, they get to see what potential they have, what is out there, what blueprints are out there that they can take advantage of. Because when you go there, subconsciously, there's change. You might not see it directly, but a couple years, couple months, couple days, couple minutes, you get to see that actually, I never had that thought before, but since I've gone there and I come back, I get to see that I've been sleeping on myself in this, in that, in that. So I really want to eventually, in my personal capacity, just send people over. There shouldn't be a specific criteria. I just want to expose my people, my community, to what is out there, so that they don't limit themselves. Because being in a township is quite limiting. Being in a rural area, you don't get to see certain things. So the more that you see, the more that you can fit in to the environment. Because when you are out there, you get to see your options. But when you are closed in, your options are very, very limited, and you tend to be scared, you tend to be afraid of going out there because of being overwhelmed by what is out there. But obviously we'll start small, probably take a person to Johannesburg, take a person to Cape Town or whatever, and then eventually move forward. But people need to be exposed as much as possible. And if I be successful, if I have a whole lot of money, that's gonna be my mission, just to expose, because the next generation, someone in Inanda is sitting on an idea, but they don't know the idea is there because they haven't seen what is out there, in order for them to modify and change their idea to fit probably the South African market, the African market, or the global market. So that is why we need to unlock people within the rural areas, within the underdeveloped townships, because they do have developed ideas.
I guess we flex different.
Look at the youth. 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 We shine you. We shine you. We shine you. Man, they gets the lead. Watch the company you keep. Look at the youth now. Look at the youth now. Look at the youth. Look at the youth. Look at the youth. We shine you. We shine you. We shine you. Man, they gets the lead. Watch the company you keep. Look at the youth now.
WL.
The streets are cold,
down.
ain't no way around it. Started off like a weed going. Now we started off like a weed going. Mentally, vocally, you take destiny. Watch the company. Live life I chose. All this move, pick your poison if you like a dough. Chicken holler. It's hard to focus when you move the booty right in front of me, my hiding thing.
If you'd like to advertise with us or have your product here instead of this Pringles box, please contact me through my social media pages, the Royale Express Podcast. And you can also find Bliss's contacts in the description below. See you soon, and thank you for watching till the end.
Yeah.